so good. And that's really what that first book is about. It's like the phoenix rising from the ashes, because what was being burned, he was like, don't worry, like I am putting you through the fire, but I've got you. And I
Yeah.
think that's where a lot of people get so stagnant that they end up being consumed by the fire, but not the fire of the Holy Spirit, just the fire of the world. And
Yeah.
especially with everything that's transpired with COVID, and I don't want to get into all the politics and all the things that we could go down those rabbit holes. And I did say right before I got on, I said, I'm not afraid to push those buttons. So we might go there, but it's just, there's a lot of tension. There's a lot of fire with a lot of different people, groups, and talk about ethnicity and having those multiple conversations on a consistent basis. It feels like a lot of things are burning. And yet I've had this really bizarre sense of peace throughout this entire 2-year season. And it's been really neat to watch different people, inclusive of yourself, stand up in the face of fear. And so talk to us through with that phoenix rising from the ashes, how that really helped. I think I just said asses, by the way. I apologize in advance.
Bible, we're fine. We're fine.
That was awesome. I was like, that just came out. That was good. So, but like really is how do you face the fear and understand that like you don't have to be consumed by what's going on around you, and you can really have that eternal peace even here right now in the midst of it all.
You know, when we talk about God, it's from the pages from Genesis to Revelation, Old and New Testament, we see that whenever fire is mentioned, one of two things happens. One, the presence of God is revealed, and or two, some dramatic changes and happens. And so what I love is during this season when so many things just felt like it were like falling to pieces, I felt like I sensed, and I didn't hear an audible voice, but I sensed that God was saying the same fire that transforms is the same fire that destroys. You get to choose. Do you want to be transformed and rise out of these ashes? Or do you want this to consume you and you lose your faith? And that was like a huge pivot point for me. But I think the concept of, I resonated with the mythological story of the phoenix rising out of his ashes, almost because it was like, if you read that story in context, the phoenix flies to the desert and, you know, tries to connect with God. And that was essentially my journey. I wanted to connect with God, but it just felt like everything around me was incinerating. And yet this bird rises out of its ashes and becomes even beautiful. And I think that's what surrender, that's the beginning steps, beginning with surrender. When we just say, okay, God, it's not my will, it's your will. And we see this modeled by Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, when he says, take this cup from me, but not my will, but your will be done. That act of surrender really transforms us. And we see that through the life of Jesus. He gave up his life in order for us to inherit ours. And we literally experience transformational power through Jesus. And I'm like, I don't want to be afraid of the fire. I don't want to be afraid of life's fires. In fact, one of my favorite Bible stories, and it's in the book that you read, Play with Fire, is the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, because they came to a point in their faith, that same moment of surrender. They're going, for those that aren't familiar with the Bible story, it's in the Old Testament, and it's these three roughneck brothers. I call them these gangsters because they had so much swag to go to the most powerful person at the time and say, yo, King Nebuchadnezzar, who was the most powerful man, they're like, we're not going to do what you've asked us to do, which was bow down to a graven image of gold. Hey, we're not going to bow down. And even if you throw us into the flaming fire, we still will not bow down, because we know that God will save us. But even if he doesn't, we will not bow down. And it was that phrase, even if he doesn't, that's faith, where I'm saying, I believe that God can, but even if he doesn't, we are still not going to acquiesce. That's the faith fire that I want.